to be doing a review for 47 Meters Down today, but then I realized I have a small break in my schedule coming up. I wanted to review this movie first. This movie's more important, The Last Black Man in San Francisco. That's the film I'm going to be reviewing today. Don't worry about 47 Meters Down. Don't worry, I'll get to it. It's not that good a movie. I'll get to it. You'll get a video for that sometime. But priorities, man. I'm all about priorities on this channel. The Last Black Man in San Francisco is a movie that is directed by Joe Talbot. It is his feature film debut. He also produced this movie. He also wrote the screenplay. He also worked on the story of this movie with the main actor of this movie, Jimmy Fails, who it turns out he grew up with in San Francisco. This movie also stars Jonathan Majors. It stars Tachina Arnold, Danny Glover, among other people. Mike Epps, I think, shows up at some point in this movie. What this movie is it's a story about a young man played by Jimmy Fails and his best friend, played by Jonathan Majors, who are in San Francisco. They're from San Francisco. They're living their life, but they're also living a life that's kind of incomplete because Jimmy Fails really wants to move back into his childhood home, this house that's over in the Fillmore district. Really wants to do everything he can to protect this house, to save this house, and he wants this house back so that he and his friend can live there. This movie is about him trying to reclaim that house on behalf of himself or on behalf of his family and his best friend. At the same time, they can't ignore the complications and the realities of the fact that that is no longer their house. I love movies, man. I love movies. I love everything about cinema. Cinema is my jam. It's my passion, man. Every time I see a film like this, it reminds me of why I love cinema so much. Why I think everybody should be loving cinema as much as I do. I mean, you see a film like this is the tits that you watch movies for. I mentioned before that the director and the main actor in this movie, Jimmy Fails, grew up together in San Francisco. Apparently they're childhood, lifelong best friends. After doing a little research, I found out that these guys actually had the idea for this movie back when they were teenagers. And I also found out that some parts of this story are actually partly based on Jimmy and his real life story, his real life struggle. And I say all that to say that there is something very passionate and beautiful about the way that this film was made and about the effort that was put into making this movie what it is, which is a gigantic poem or a love letter to the city of San Francisco. Being that it's a love letter to a specific place like San Francisco, this reminds me a lot of Blind Spotting from last year, which was, I think, directed and written by David Diggs and Rafael Casal. I can't remember actually. No, they didn't direct it, but they did write the story for the movie. Listen, my details are getting foggy. The point is, I remember that was kind of a passion project for them, and it was kind of a love letter to Oakland, and that was one of my favorite films of 2018. This film already is one of my favorite films of 2019, and I say all that to say that I love it when all that passion is put into a project like this. There's something so insanely beautiful about this movie, and I'm not just talking about the amazing filmmaking, which I will get to in a second. Something beautiful about this movie and the people involved in it, the authentic and the well-acted characters that are put into it. Something beautiful about the way that this story and this screenplay was put together. Something beautiful about the messages and the themes that this movie is trying to put across. Messages about love of family, love of community, love of a home, love of everything that can be taken away from you. If anything, this movie is just a well-made and beautiful reminder, and a sad reminder, that even though you love something and even though you want to give your heart to something, it doesn't mean it can't be taken away from you, but it also doesn't have to define your life. Let's get to the filmmaking in this movie, because holy shit, this is Joe Talbot's first movie? Psh, I couldn't tell. Based on this movie, I would have thought this dude was making movies for like 20-something years. He's a master craftsman at work here. Everything about this movie, from the directing to the editing to the shot selection and placement, is just it's beautiful, and he brings out the best in every single actor that he has on screen in this movie. Cinematography for this movie is, yes, it is. It's omelet titties. This is omelet titties cinematography. I will be embarrassed and ashamed and angry and all that stuff if this movie does not get nominated at least for something at the Oscars regarding its cinematography. Hell, nominated for cinematography, nominated for screenplay, nominated for its music, the musical score. Holy shit, the musical score in this movie slaps. Can't actually remember the name of the composer. I think it's Emile Monseri or somebody. Whoever composes the musical score, you did a phenomenal job here. Scene by scene, there's something really beautiful and something really emotional or uplifting or euphoric or actually sad and haunting that is playing with the music, and I really appreciated that. It's like the musical score, scene by scene, keeps you hooked and invested in what's going on. Scene by scene, there is something really unpredictable to the way that these scenes are helmed. I never know what's gonna happen scene by scene in this movie, and that's part of the intrigue of watching a film like this. I absolutely love the camera work that is on display in this movie. One of the things things that Joe does with the camera work in this movie is he does this interesting thing with his zooms and his pans. There's a lot of scenes where he films the scene from a zooming standpoint, like it's either zooming out from the frame or it's zooming into the frame, and it creates this intimate, very personal experience. Scene by scene, it's almost like the camera work is pushing you away just to pull you in closer, and it's kind of poetic and perfect for the way that the movie is setting itself up. Then we have to get to the performances, and oh my god, the performances. Two main leads in this movie, Jimmy Fails and Jonathan Majors, both I think should be up for major consideration in the award season. Both of these dudes absolutely slated, absolutely crushed it. All the complications involving the family and the community that these people are from in this movie. I mean, honestly, this movie feels like it's taking a snapshot of a point in time. It feels like this point in time is a transitional thing, like it's trying to capture the spirit of a city that is in the process of moving on. There's heavy focus in this movie on gentrification and displacement and stuff like that in the city of San Francisco. Heavy focus on the theme of losing what is once yours, and that was heavy at the heart of what this movie is. I cannot rave about this movie any more than I already have. I could probably spend about 20 to 25 to 30 minutes talking about how amazing this movie was. But for the sake of the video length, I will get into some of the negatives, which really there aren't that many. The only real negatives I have is that there are some intriguing family dynamics that I think the film could have explored a little bit more. There are some things in the movie that feel like it could have had a little bit more closure to it, a little bit more explanation. I mean, I don't need the movie to hold my hand through a lot of the storytelling. There are just some things that were kind of left unanswered and kind of vague in my mind, and I would have liked it if the film had filled in some of those details as regards to some of these characters. Right now, this thing is having a cage fight with fast color for my favorite film of 2019. The Last Black Man in San Francisco was freaking amazing, and I am going to put this movie in the Superman Prime section of this show. Amazing film. This is why I love movies. Please check this movie out if you have a chance. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos. I will have that video up for 47 Meters Down probably sometime tomorrow. If you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.